This tutorial, led by one of Azore's developers, Paul, demonstrates how to visualize pathlines in Azore and animate them with custom settings. You will also learn how to export animation frames easily right in the user interface.
Now, here's a database we were looking at before. I'll turn on some path lines. So make those a little more pretty. So you got your path lines here, and I think most of you know if you hit the go button, it starts going. Now, let me go. You've got your options button, which brings back up this display options window. And this is where you can fool with what this animation looks like. So right now, it's releasing a new kind of segment every half second, and it's running at 100% speed, which means that this is the same speed as the flow is actually going through this thing. So you can tell, zipping through these ducts, I get into my ESP where it's supposed to be slow, and it's slow. So it's good. But say I want to make this better, you can slow it down. And I should say, it tries to figure out numbers for these values that make sense. But sometimes, depending on your database, these numbers might be completely off, and you hit go and everything's just like flying through or something. So you need to open this up and adjust these if you want to see it better. So the speed is, how you make it stop. Whatever, how fast you want it to go compared to real life. The interval is basically how long each one of these segments are. So if I change that to 5 seconds, I get a lot longer lines. Change it to, 0.1 second, and they're all a lot smaller. The dash length is how much of this is solid and how much is vacant. So make it longer, then you just get little gaps moving. Make it short, you just get little dashes. Okay. Finally, this random start. If the random start is turned off, which I think is the default, everything starts at the same time, and you get this blob of path lines moving through. Whereas random start does that. So then you get just a more distributed look, which, as you'll see here in a second, sometimes you want either one of those. Now, we stop that. So when you're making your animations, you got your views window, and say I want to look at this bunch lately. So say I want to start here, and I want to move to there. So I'm going to have it animate between those two. Well, normally I just did this, and it does it really quick, and I can't tell what that looks like very well. So under your display options, under views, there's this thing of changing your view animations, which most of the time you'll be like, why do I even care that this is here? But if I'm working on something, my animation, and I want to slow it down to see what it looks like, that's when you use this. So say I want it to take 5 seconds to go between my views. And so now, as I view it on screen, I'm going to get a similar thing to when I'm going to make my movie. You have acceleration, which just gives it, as it starts and stops the rotation, smooths it down a little bit so it's not as jerky. And then you've got this short path or long path. Usually you want short path. So what it does, you think about, you got your 2 different views like on your sphere. It's going to find the shortest path between those 2 points. That's what it usually does. If I say long path, it's going to look at those 2 points and going to say, what is the longest way I can get between those 2? So now I do it, and it's going to take me all the way around. Occasionally you're doing something that might end up what you like, because then you kind of circle your whole model. So be aware of those. So this is just a way of, as I'm setting it up, okay, like I'm going to adjust my paths to be whatever the right shape and length. I can adjust my views so my animation between them is what I want it to be. I can see it on screen, kind of get an idea of what you want. And so if you get that set up, the manual way of outputting files from this is you go to hard copy, save as bitmap, and you got your usual output options here. But then there's this one, and because I was just looking at these, that was turned on. Usually this is turned off. You hit animate frames, and I can say, well, I'm going to go for 10 seconds, 30 frames per second. Do I want to animate my path lines? If you have that checked, it's going to use the animation setup you just defined. If I say I want to animate views, then I can list 2 different views. It's going to go from view A to view B, and it's going to output however many. So 10 seconds at 30 frames per second, it's going to output me 300 frames. Okay. You can adjust that to whatever you want. And that will give you one set of animations.